Trigonometry, Chapter 1, Trigonometric Functions, Section 4, Using Definitions of Trigonometric Functions, Video 4, Examples Using Signs of Trig Functions. This series is based on content from Pearson's Trigonometry, 12th edition by Lial, Hornsby, Schneider, and Daniels. In the previous video, we determined the signs of trig functions based on the quadrant in which the angle lies, more specifically, the quadrant in which the terminal side lies when drawn in standard position. A quick recap, in quadrant 1, all trig functions are positive. In quadrant 2, sine is positive, as is its reciprocal cosecant. In quadrant 3, tangent is positive, as is its reciprocal cotangent. And in quadrant 4, cosine is positive, as is its reciprocal secant. In this video, we look at a few examples of using this knowledge. For example, determine the signs of the trig functions of the given angles: 87 degrees, 300 degrees, and negative 200 degrees. Since the signs of the trig functions are contingent of the quadrant, in which the terminal side lands, we should probably start by figuring out which quadrants these angles, terminal sides, land in. Pause the video and see if you can figure them out. And here we go. First, determine the quadrant of each angle. Angle 87 is in quadrant 1 because it's between 0 and 90. Angle 300 degrees is in quadrant 4 because 270 degrees would take you into quadrant 3. Would take you all the way through quadrant 3 into quadrant 4, but it takes 360 to get out of quadrant 4. And then negative 200 degrees is in quadrant 2 because we would have to go in the negative direction. Come on. We would have to go in the negative direction. So if we were to go backwards, 180 degrees, negative 180 would take us back to the negative x-axis and then a little bit further. Not sure what's going on here. Okay, well, I thought I was drawing with my finger. But anyway, negative 200 degrees is in quadrant 2. Next, based on the quadrant, we can identify the positive trig functions by using this. In quadrant 1, all trig functions are positive. In quadrant 4, cosine and secant are positive. And in quadrant 2, sine and cosecant are positive. And now that we know which trig functions are positive in each quadrant, all the remaining trig functions are negative. So for 87 degrees, all trig functions are positive. For 300 degrees, cosecant and secant are positive, but tangent, cosecant, sine, cosecant, tangent, and cotangent are negative. And for negative 200 degrees, sine and cosecant are positive, but cosine, secant, tangent, and cotangent are negative. We can also use the signs of trig functions to locate the quadrant in which an angle's terminal side lies. For example, identify the quadrants in which each angle could lie. A, sine of theta is greater than 0 and tangent of theta is less than 0. B, cosine of theta is less than 0 and secant theta is less than 0. Let's do A by itself first. And we're going to start with the quadrants in which sine of theta is greater than 0. In which quadrants is sine positive? Well, definitely quadrant 1, but also quadrant 2. Now we find the quadrants where tangent is negative. In which quadrants is tangent negative? Well, it's positive in 1 and 3, so it's negative in 2 and 4. And the only quadrant in which sine is positive and tangent is negative is quadrant 2. So one inequality narrows it down to 2 quadrants, and then we can use the second inequality to select the desired quadrant, usually. For part B, we could take the same approach, but notice that cosine and secant are reciprocals. That means they always have the same sign, so we only need to focus on where cosine is negative. Well, cosine and secant are both positive in quadrants 1 and 4, which means that they are negative in quadrants 2 and 3. So cosine is negative and secant is negative in both quadrants 2 and 3. Now you try. Pause the video and try the following. All right, here's your heads up. If you haven't paused the video and tried the questions yet, solutions in 3, 2, 1.